when we had bariatric surgery, the thing about sugar is that no matter what surgery we have, the sugar will pass through our elective bariatric surgery. So I think that when we have RNY, the malabsorption part or the dumping syndrome um, diverts a person to um, decrease the sugar addiction for a time. My best friend, Donna, had bariatric surgery. She had Roux-en-Y. Actually, she was a conversion. When I was having lap band, she was being converted to RNY. She had had the lap band and she gained all of her weight back, basically. She developed a dilated esophagus. Her family history, she has, what do you call that, Barrett's esophagus. So the restriction process from the lap band and the, I guess, whatever was happening in her throat, she got GERD, severe GERD, and she developed the condition where she was able to have revision, and she gained all her weight back. And that's when I met her, right? That's how I learned about bariatric surgery, through my friend Donna. And so I met her, and she had lost I think she lost like 60 pounds with a lap band, and then she wound up gaining it all back. I think I have a video on my channel of her and I think 2 channels, back in July of 2000 and I think 13. A couple of videos of us. But you know, she went all the way down with her bariatric surgery. She went all the way down to a size 2. And the way Donna was built, Donna lost 100 pounds with the RNY. So she lost 50 more pounds with the RNY surgery. And she kept her weight off probably for about 5 years. But she never really changed her diet that much for the first year, because metabolically the RNY, the malabsorption really helped her with her food problem and her sugar problem, so she lost all her weight. Then what happened was, about maybe 4 years into after RNY, she started to gain weight. And it was amazing, because when she was going through her weight loss, I remember like me struggling with the lap band. I was trying to lose a pound, and she was losing 3 pounds a week. So here's Donna. This is Donna right here. You can see her right here. Donna's right there. Yeah, and she's like 3 years younger than me, but she was built different than me. Donna was built, she was top heavy, and she had long legs. She's like 1.5 inches taller than me. And I'm built differently. So as a matter of fact, it was weird, because when she lost all her weight, she had a food aversion for sugar and fat, and she wouldn't touch it, because else she would dump. And when she dumped, she described it, and she would get sweaty, and she would do the foamies, and then she would have to go to bed for about 6 hours. But now it's going on 6.5 years later. She doesn't have any dumping syndrome, right? There's no dumping. She watches her diet. She's gained back, I think, about 35 pounds. I've gained back 15. And the thing about it is that I think we all fight this, you know, whether it's food addiction, whether it's choosing the wrong food, whether it's metabolics, whether it's hormones. I don't know what it is. And it's very, very mind exhausting, because now this season for me is the dangerous season, is when I gain weight. It's time to eat denser food. It's the time to get less activity because it's cold. You have to exercise more in the gym, so to speak. I can't go outside only on nice days. Take, for instance, today is very cold. But I want to introduce you to Dr. Lustig. Do you know Dr. Lustig? He's an endocrinologist. He specializes in pediatrics, endocrinology. He's some kind of cell biologist. He's very, very informative. He has a lot of videos. I think he has a video of something about sugar, the sugar, something about sugar 10 or 11 years ago. He's an author of a lot of books, but I really like what he has to say.
So that you can buy happiness.
He talks about the serotonin and dopamine effect.
It's called the American economy, and it's based on hedonic substances that drive pleasure rather than happiness. And in the process, we have become most decidedly unhappy. And the problem is, you can't fix a problem unless you identify what the problem is. That's the reason for this book.
Isn't that the truth? I had to really dig deep when I, figured out that I was fat, because I didn't see myself as fat until 2011. And from 2006 to 2013, I was obese, yeah. And I really didn't see myself as obese until one day I looked in the mirror. My daughter said, "Mom, you're really fat." And I didn't see myself getting fat. I mean, I knew my legs were swollen. And I knew I was getting fat. But metabolically, my blood pressure was fine. My cholesterol was abnormal. I did get sleep apnea. And I didn't want to look at myself anymore. That's from the back of me, and those legs are really swollen. And I felt horrible. I really felt horrible. This is the front of them. They're not very pretty, And the thing about it is that I was always pretty much slim and trim my whole life. Here's a picture of this is at my ankle. So you see, there's really no ankle bone. It's all inflammation. This is my highest at 215. And this is what I started out like in 2006. I got married in 2006. I had gained from 2005, I was gaining about 10 pounds a year here in Maryland. And I really didn't see myself until it came to be an emergency situation. And then I met Donna, and she introduced me to bariatric surgery. So that's my lowest. I got down as 147. My lowest adipose was metabolically is when I went plant-based in 2015. I was very lean. I had lost all my hair. I developed a gut bacteria called H. pylori because of my lap band. It was too tight for a lot of years. I got esophagitis. I got a dilated esophagitis. I got a IBS because I was running a lot of marathons and half marathons and triathlons, and I inflamed my body to the point where I was bleeding out of my rectum. And I decided that I had better quit it because I would be into a real medical problem. So that was 2016. So I've been in remission because I went back to eating animals and I stopped all endurance sports. So basically I just walk and I do a little weights, I do a little yoga, and I was doing spin for a while. I was doing pickleball, I was doing tennis, I played some golf. I tried to do 10,000 to 15,000 steps a day. I became unemployed in 2017. So what I did was I increased my walking to About 8 to 9 miles a day. And I was trying to keep a low um, inflammation in my body. I was getting plenty of rest, plenty of sleep. I balanced out my sleep cycle. I was sleeping 8 hours a night, and my stress level went down. So that's been going on since 2017. Um, Now, I don't have any restriction in my lap band, so I really regulate my food consumption by protein first. I try to get low carbohydrates, and do just regular movement every day.
Title of the book, you use the word hacking. Um, this sounds pretty dark and conspiratorial. Do you really think that there's been a plot to control our minds?
This was 2 years ago.
So let's first of all, I define the word hack. So hack has a relatively short history. The very first time the word hack was used, other than in a butchery, was in 1955, when it was used at MIT, the Model Railroad Club, to talk about a unusual solution to a complex problem. And that's what it meant.
So his hypothesis is 100%. It's not about the fat. Fat doesn't make you fat. Sugar and carbohydrates make you fat. Sugar mainly, carbohydrates turn into sugar. And his hypothesis is that, and there's no reason why we need to eat carbohydrates.
For quite a while. An example, stealing a car is a felony offense.
So I'll link a card. I don't want to make this video too long. And you can find his
That's
information.
called propaganda. So the difference between marketing and propaganda is the truth. The corporations of America today have engaged in a very specific attempt to market their propaganda in order to.
And that's very true. And that's very true, because if you go back in time and look at like old photographs on YouTube and stuff like that, 40s, 50s, 60s, and my time, which is 1970s, there weren't a lot of fat people. People were pretty lean. And somewhere around the late 1970s, and his hypothesis is when they changed, they made the low fat, they took the fat out of the food, they took the fat out of the food, they replaced it with high fructose corn syrup because it's cheap. Because somewhere along the line in the 1950s, President Eisenhower had a heart attack. And then they had that hypothesis with Ansel Keys and the other guy, and they squashed the other guy, which his hypothesis was really true. But Ansel Keys, somehow, I guess the Rockefellers and the 7 families and all those people that have high powers in the United States, and they wanted to sell drugs. So they decided that fat was going to be demonized, and they were going to push their agenda and start to make people vulnerable and sick, so that you can be on the medical train to be constantly running to your doctor's office, constantly running to the pharmaceutical company for drugs, to keep you depending upon that unhealthy path, because nobody makes money on healthy people, right? They just don't. They just don't. Consumerism. Nobody makes money on people that save their money. They make money on people spending money, right?
To get us to do different things than we might otherwise have done. Examples. The easiest one, of course, is food, and the one that I've written about previously. The idea that foods can be healthy goes back a long way. In fact, not eating food is not healthy. It's called starvation. The question is, which foods are the ones that ultimately lead to health? And the answer is not the ones that the food industry has touted. In fact, we have the
So
data that
we have the
demonstrates
data. We have the data. It's just hidden from some of us, And there's this big, big conspiracy, and there's this big, big argument, between the medical doctors, the dietitians, the scientists, and just the general people that have a food addiction, or they have a vested interest in a particular product or food or whatever. So anyway, I'll link a card. His videos are interesting. Seek him out and see you in the next video.